Hello, everybody. We've got a bit of extra content for you this week. Now, I was in a group chat the other day, and one of the people in the chat said to me, "Mark, wouldn't it be an idea to get a few of us on and just talk about just how broken Britain is?" And I thought, yeah, I'm up for that. So we've got a few volunteers this evening, so I'll bring them on shortly. So we've got Reuben, we've got Connie, and we've got, who's the other lad, Ricky. We've got Ricky as well. So they'll be joining us in a second. So the subject is broken Britain, and it is indeed broken. Do you not agree? And it's broken to the point of, is it broken too far, or can we save this? Now, you know me, that I'm ever the optimist, and we will fight till the end, whatever happens. So it's going to be interesting to see and hear what normal patriots, normal people, my followers have got to say about a range of different things. So I'm going to fire some questions at them, and we'll see what they've got to say, and we'll go from there. But when we talk about broken Britain, what do we mean? So we've got Libo in control at the moment, and God, they're doing a fantastic job, aren't they? I couldn't have thought it would have gone any worse than what it has. I mean, I was desperate when they got in, and I thought it would be bad, but I actually didn't think it would be this bad. Knife crime on the up, NHS on its knees, housing crisis, illegal immigration crisis, grooming gangs, poverty, cost of living. We've got USA, UK problems, shall we say. We've got rapists and paedophiles walking the streets, whilst people for writing hurty words and saying things on platforms such as this are languishing in jail. We are a police state now. Freedom of speech is under attack. So I'm glad that a few people have reached out and would like to say their voice and hear their voice and let their voice be heard, because the more people that we have shouting and screaming from the rooftops that what is going on is wrong and we will not accept it, and we don't accept this, and we will not accept it going forward, the better. So I'm going to bring my first guy in, and that's going to be Ricky. So I'll bring Ricky in. Ricky, how we doing, chap?
All right, Mark, you? How you going?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Can you just tell everybody who you are, whereabouts in the world you're from, mate, and what you do?
Yeah, sure. My name's Ricky. I'm from a little fishing town on the south coast. 53. I've been married for about 20 years now or so. Got an 18-year-old son, and just basically fed up the way this country's going, pretty much.
Yeah, aren't we all, mate?
I just don't think I can take any more of this rubbish that the Labour government keep portraying. I mean, it's today, things are just going crazy today with the population projection that's meant to be pumped out today is eye-opening, to be honest with you. It's frightening in some ways.
It's very frightening, mate, and yeah, I'm with you on everything, mate. We are living in a dangerous time, and I feel that Labour add to that danger. Let me bring Reuben in, mate.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Reuben. How you doing, chap?
How you doing, Mark? Good to be here, mate.
Good.
Reuben.
Can you do the same, mate? Tell everybody who you are, whereabouts you live, and all that kind of jazz.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm over in West Wales, originally from London. I'm just slightly north of Ricky's age, let's put it that way. And I'm a husband, father, 3 sons, and a Christian counsellor and teacher. And just like you fellas, reaching a kind of a breaking point, really, with biting my lip. You know, let's put it that way. It's time to pipe up a little bit more.
That stiff upper lip's starting to hurt a little bit, isn't it?
It is, my friend. It is, yeah. It's sore now.
It's getting harder and harder, isn't it, guys? Each day, you think that there can't be any more, can there? There can't be any more, and then it just seems to be every day. There's a new story. There's a new scandal. There's a new death. There's a new stabbing. And I feel it's only going to get worse. So yeah, it's dangerous times. Right, last guest is a lady called Connie. Connie's having some technical difficulties, so I don't think her camera's working, but we'll bring it to stage. We should be able to hear her. Connie, are you there?
Yeah, I am, Mark. Yeah.
Hi, Connie.
A bit about me. I'm from Birmingham, born and bred. Seen the city change I'd say the last 5 years, just don't recognise it at all. I'm 58. I'm a PA. Been in my job for a long time. Working higher education. Seeing the changes there. With Blair, everybody's got to go to uni. It don't suit everybody, but everybody's ended up with a big student loan, including my daughter. It's just every day you get up, and this country is literally 2 steps from hell. That's how I feel. Every day, I got up this morning, I thought, surely he's not going to do something today. And then he says he's not going to, every single day. He must sit there and he must have a list. What can I wind people up with today?
Yeah, what can I do to piss them off? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here laughing. It's not really fun.
My mum's just phoned me. She's had a letter from the National Grid today. Very sinister letter indeed. And I think it's a milliband power cuts coming along, because it's saying if you've got any history of if you've got any medical equipment you need to have plugged in, you must notify them. So if we should ever have power cuts, they'll sort you out. Now, why would you get one of them? We haven't had power cuts since the 70s. This is another planning for a COVID, only cutting off your electric. That's what I think, anyway.
You could well be right.
Everything's sinister.
Yeah, it is, and it's like you say. It's almost like he's doing it to wind us up, because he's not for the people. And we might get into that a bit later, but I think it's the worst possible person to have in charge of us at the minute. He's a socialist dictator. He's a WEF puppet. That's how I see him, and that's how I see the other party. To be honest, the Tories. That's why. I'm a great advocate for reform. I just think we need something totally different, and they're the best place to do that. You guys might have a different opinion moving forward. Right, let me start with the first question. What we'll do is I'll fire them at. I'll put this one to Ricky first, and then if you've got anything to add, if you can do so, and we'll have a little chat about Ricky's answer and what we think, and then we'll just keep going through like that, and we'll see how much we can get through, and get your opinions. Okay, so Ricky, what do you think are the most significant signs that Britain might be considered broken as we stand?
As we stand, oh blimey! Well, the immigration crisis is the biggest factor, I think, that's going to change this country, and it is changing this country. It's changed it, like the other guests have said, unrecognisable. I don't recognise my own town now, and I've lived here near enough all my life, on and off, and it's just unrecognisable. It's scary that. The fact that you can't walk down the street anymore without feeling safe in your own country. But that aside, it's everything else. It's not just about. I think the only way we're going to fix this problem is it's not just about getting a party out or getting a new leader in. It's a deep state that's the biggest problem, I think, to be honest. And I think that's what's broken this country right back from the Blair times. Really, I think it's pretty much started from there. And I think it's a deep state that is the biggest problem, I think, and needs reforming.
Well, they said, didn't they, that this migrant influx was planned? When he said that, I was like, wow. And not only did he say that, he said it's a plan that hasn't worked. So do you think that we're broken at the moment? Do you think immigration is the number one thing, and does that have a knock-on effect to everything else? Is that the angle you're coming from?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, you can't even get a doctor. I mean, we're just repeating what everyone else is saying. With thousands and thousands of people, you can't get a doctor's appointment, you can't get a dentist appointment. Cost of living's going through the roof, and I just solely, pretty much put that down to people coming over here that shouldn't be over here, and unchecked as well. I've got no problem with anyone coming over here, but you come over and you live by our laws and our culture. But the ones that are coming over here now that are unchecked is just crazy. It is crazy. You can't go into another country without having the right paperwork and everything else. So why are these people just allowed to come over here and just be given everything? And I think that's pretty much the be and end of why I shouldn't say Britain's broken, but it's on the verges of being broken. And all the time we got that little bit of hope. That's the biggest thing the Patriots can hold on to, is that hope of that we can swing this around. We can turn it around. It's not
Yeah,
dark
I
and
would
gloomy.
say, Rick, we're not quite there as we stand, like you say. We're very nearly there. The
I mean,
problem we've got
it's on the precipice, isn't it? You know,
it is. The problem
it
we've got,
is.
Rick, is we've got another 4 years of this yet.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
he ain't going
Yeah,
anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Reform might win some councils here, some councils there, but he ain't going anywhere for 4 years because he ain't going to
yeah.
resign.
And that's the big deep state, the councils.
Exactly.
You know,
I mean,
they're
putting out a
pretty much
statement
all
today,
Labour
Ricky,
based, aren't they?
he put a statement out today, Ricky, basically saying that he will not commit to a cap on immigration.
Yeah, yeah. Why? Why is it? Well, we know why. We know. Let's not beat about the bush here because he wants the votes. I get that, but really, what at the cost of indigenous people of this country taking a back seat and the working class just being forgotten about? It's really, are you deluded? Are you deluded, Keir? Are you really that deluded? You feel like you just want to get hold of him and shake him and say, "What are you doing? What on earth are you doing? You can't keep doing this." And now the tax rises are going up as well. So I've heard today as well. So we're going to get clobbered again. And like I say, it's, you pick up your phone every day and it's like something else and then something else. What's he going to do today? What's he going to do? You can't leave. I shouldn't say the news, but you can't leave your phone alone because you're worried about what he's going to do tomorrow.
Yeah. So I think we agree we're on the verge of being broken. Maybe we're not quite there yet. I mean, I think we are personally, but people say there's still hope, and there's always hope, of course. There is. Reuben, you got anything to add to what Ricky said about any signs that you say are significant that points in the direction that we are nearly broken?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, already what everyone has said is really nailing it, because the biggest factor, the biggest thing that we see that's destabilizing us has to be the immigration issue, because it's just overwhelming so many different other aspects of our culture. When you're importing a large number of people who have absolutely no desire to integrate with you, we've got a serious problem. And we've been told, of course, for decades and decades that we have to put a lid on our culture. We have to take a back seat and celebrate their culture. Now, to be honest, I think we're a very welcoming people because by and large, that's exactly what people have tried to do. And with some cultures, it's been very successful because they've wanted to integrate with us. But when you're told you can't offer them your culture, there's a real problem because the only way you can integrate is when there is a dominant culture. And so when the British people have been suppressed and told you're not allowed to be who you are because it makes you racist, where are these people meant to go even if they did want to integrate, So that to me reveals that what Ricky said is absolutely true. There's been something very nefarious about this for decades. Our other guest has already mentioned Blair, and I think it goes back to those years. We know it changed then at the end of the 90s. Whatever that nefarious plan is, they're certainly not sharing it with us. And the reason this is all coming to a head and people are so frustrated is because of the Southport issue and how much corruption it revealed and how, do you know what offended me more than anything was the fact that the attitude, that he said, he's admitted he lied, right? That's number one. And then he said it's for our own good. Number two, so I'm going to do an evil. I'm going to do a wrong towards you. That is tell you a lie. And then I'm going to tell you that it's because I know better, that I'm that important and I'm that, brilliant that I can just steer all your behavior. And actually, if I don't do that, you're all a bunch of animals and you wouldn't be able to behave yourself. There is zero trust. You know what I mean? There's zero trust left between the political class and his people. And when you get to that point, we are in serious trouble. I mean, we're in serious trouble. And broken, there's different ways of saying that, right? So I think we got a broken leg for sure. We need some emergency measures. But we've got to keep our hope up because you know what, the British people have been through some serious times before and we've proven ourselves in those times before. So, it breaks my heart to hear all of you. It really does. But I feel like it should be breaking our heart because that's what will bring us together in the end and we'll win it,
That's a good point. Connie?
I think we are broken and I can't see it's getting worse every day. I can't see how we're going to get back from it. I think we need a Trump, and we haven't got one. I don't think Farage is a Trump. I think he's today, last couple of days, he's been changing his tune a little bit. Now, I'm a member of Reform, but after being called that lot, after the way he slated Tommy Robinson, I can't, my conscience is thinking now, can I honestly vote for this man, despite I know they're the best chance? After what he's done, is he going to be any different to Starmer? And that's the question.
Yeah, this is the problem we've got. Is I've talked about this a few times. Is Tories they're done for. I can't see them coming back from where they've gone to. And Labour have had such a disastrous start that surely people are opening their eyes to that as well. The only party that's positioned. You can talk about Liberal Democrats, but then they're never going to. They got what they got last time simply because they got the other vote. If you know what I mean. If they weren't going to vote for the Tories, they were going to vote for Reform or Liberal Democrats, and that's where they are. You'll see their numbers drop way down in the next. I'm quite certain of that. But the other tough. Go on, mate. Do
you think that all the parties now, Labour, Conservative, Lib Dem, they've all sort of kind of merged into one, haven't they? You can't really tell the difference between them now. Whereas years ago, you could tell Labour was Labour and it was working class and everything. Conservative was Conservative. You could tell the difference. But now they've all kind of merged into one.
That's because they're all being dictated to by higher forces, aren't they? They're all being dictated to by WEF and WHO and whatever. That's what the problem is. But just going back to what Connie said, it is a bit of an issue because I felt the same. He did throw Tommy Robinson, but if you've not got something nice to say, don't say nothing at all. Do you know what I mean? He didn't need to do that. He just said, "I'm not answering that question."
Exactly, yeah.
He chose to answer it, and he's done it a few times now, which I didn't like. And then
I like Nick Tenkona. I listened to him on Liam Tuff's the other day, and I think he's got some great ideas. And I think he'd stand up for us, but he won't get the vote. They won't get the numbers.
And this is the problem. I was just going to say the same thing. That there's some other parties out there that talk a tougher game. And let's be honest, Nigel talked that tougher game. And I think he feels like he's a bit tired at the moment. I think that's what it is, and that's the excuse I give it. He's an MP now. All this other time when he was Brexit and he's coming through, he wasn't an MP. He could say what he liked.
Yeah, I mean we can go with that, Mark. But I've watched him do numerous interviews where he hasn't even been asked about Tommy.
Yeah,
and he's brought nothing back him up.
Is that
at least 3 times? Yeah,
I've seen that, Mark. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
but this stuff with Tommy Robinson
being asked about him and then bringing him up of your own accord, it's 2 different things.
Yeah.
But this stuff with Tommy and Reform, like you say, Mark, he didn't have to. That first interview that he'd done, I think, was with Sky News. I can't remember. It was a while ago. But the very first interview he'd done with Sky News, when he was asked that question about Tommy, all he had to do was, "Don't want to answer that question. I'm not interested. All I'm focusing in on the election." That's all. All he had to do was shut down that question straight away. And none of this stuff, all this stuff with Elon Musk and Tommy Robinson, this wouldn't have materialised if he just shut him down.
Yeah, he shut a Sky News reporter down about 2 weeks ago when she asked him about James, the other MP who's got had the criminal record. And he's done his time. He's a fine young man now. And straight away he shut her down. So why doesn't he do that when somebody asks him about Tommy?
I think it's really interesting as well that people talk about the failings of Tommy, they bring him up as though that indicts everything that he has to say, everything that he's doing with his time for the nation, and yet I think that completely misjudges the moment that we're in, because they've tried to throw everything at Trump, okay? And even if you believe that that's, let's say you believe that isn't kind of fabricated and they haven't made half that stuff up, if not all of it. Nonetheless, they tried to condemn Trump on his character and look at the majority they got in America, because people are not paying attention to the moral failings of their leaders. They want somebody who's going to come in here and sweep the place out, frankly, sweep all the rubbish out. And I really believe that it's not that we want somebody in who's, out and out nasty. And we all know Tommy isn't that, but I think Nigel, for a very astute man, is slightly misjudging this one,
Definitely,
because he's
definitely.
got kind of foggy by the appeal of Westminster. He has to try and win the Conservative vote. But I will say, I think that we talk about the Overton window. It is moving, and Nigel will move with it. And we aren't America. We don't necessarily need one man. We need a movement. Is what we need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing with Tommy is that they're quick to bring up his past all the time, aren't they? And let's face it, if you're working class, who hasn't been a naughty boy? I've been a naughty boy. Most working class lads have, that go to football and everything like that.
But I read Tommy's book, Enemy of the State, and if you actually read it, a lot of it are stitch-ups. He hasn't actually done anything. A lot of it is being stitched up by the police.
He got stitched up about his mortgage fraud.
Yeah.
They bring up his mortgage fraud. Well, if you've actually read into it and researched it.
Exactly. And this is what they're misjudging completely, because they don't realise that the fact that he's got flaws is what makes most of us identify with him and think he's one of us. And the fact that he's one of us, but he's also willing to suffer what he's suffered because he loves his nation and his children, and he wants them to have a future. That's what appeals to us. It's not the fact that he's making mistakes. I mean, I'm a Christian. Right. I believe we're all broken. We all need a saviour, for goodness sake. That doesn't surprise me if somebody's got a past.
I mean, it's like when they blamed the EDL for the riots. That was out and out lies. I mean, I've sent a Freedom of Information request in, and I asked 3 questions. One was, could you confirm if any members of the English Defence League have been arrested for rioting and disturbances and imprisoned in the riots of 2024? Can you confirm you have proof the EDL are still an organisation and who leads it? And can you confirm that your department was in receipt of a list of countrywide planned EDL demonstrations in 2024? The Home Office have written back, and the answer they've given me is the Home Office can neither confirm nor deny it holds requested information.
That's typical, isn't it? That is just typical.
You can't get your hat. I mean, I'm going to appeal it, because you've got 2 months to appeal the decision, and it'll go back to an independent meeting or wherever it goes. You'll probably go back to the same people, and I'll probably just get the same answer back. But I'm not leaving it.
Yeah, like flogging a dead horse, isn't it? Right, let's just park that one there for the minute. If I can just ask Reuben this one first. So I want to talk about media influence on politics, on the UK in particularly, the mainstream media and social media platforms. So public perception is driven by a lot of what mainstream media spouts out. And obviously, as guys, we're on X, where we get news a different way, which I believe is the truer the truer news, and it's correct. There's no editing. There's no airs grey. It is what it is. People post videos and they say what they want to say. How influential do you think the media is in the way we vote, the way we act, and what's going on in the country?
Well, that's a brilliant question. I think that it likes to think it's more important than it is, and I think rapidly it's going to become less and less important. And I think that's why you've mentioned the kind of globalist puppet masters of a lot of this stuff that's going on, and I think that's why they're panicking, is precisely because the media, kind of the mainstream media, had a monopoly for so long, and it was the way it happened, and I actually saw this in my own family. The way that the media got corrupted so badly was during that Blair era, when all of a sudden spin doctors became the thing, right? We all remember Campbell and all that stuff. That the very people who were working in the press went into 10 Downing Street to tell them how to manipulate the public. And so if you think about it, that's the same people who are at the same dinner parties, sat around in North London, having their conversations about how to teach, the poor plebs and all the rest of us how to live our lives, right? So that's how it started, and it's got worse and worse over decades. But what they don't realise is that people are seeing through it more and more, and I mean, I think some of them truly they're just living in such a bubble. They have absolutely no idea what most people are thinking and feeling. So it does still have an influence, right? I mean, one of my bugbears is that you know, there are a lot of people who are still listening to the BBC. You know, they exist. You know, there's and maybe of a particular the older generation. You know, they've been familiar with it. They like to sit there, put the news on, and you know, it feels in some way kind of like they're still living in Britain of old. But you know, that demographically, this thing is really shifting, and more people are just getting their news, like you say, directly from the sources. So what do? They either shut that down completely, and I wouldn't put it past them because they're panicking that much, or you know, the truth is out, and we've seen what that's doing in America. I mean, there is a seismic revelation of all the evil behind the scenes going on in America right now. You know, this is like once in a generation, if not once in many generations type, you know, civilizational shift going on. You know, they're revealing a lot of stuff, and a lot of that stuff that people said was conspiracies is going to be revealed to be true, and that's going to rock people's world. You know, it won't necessarily surprise any of us here, but there's a lot of people out there that it is going to surprise. And you know, I think, you know, those are the days we're living in, and we have to, in some ways, we have to be forgiving of people as they take their time to, you know, get their head round quite how corrupt everything is, because there's corruption across the board, in my view. And you know, the more that the X and the such like are giving a free speech platform, the more chance there is that stuff's going to come out here too.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. Well, the one thing that gets me is you look at the Southport, you look at the dross we was fed when it happened. Now we know for facts that Keir Starmer would have known about the writing, he would have known about the manual, he would have known within hours, because and he admitted that he knew stage by stage. But yet the mainstream media were pushing out a narrative of a Welsh choir boy, would only show this picture of this lad that done a BBC. And for me, I mean, Southport's a real big thing for me because I was locked away for it, for commentating on it, you know, so I feel quite strongly about what happened and how it happened, etc. You know, but it was quite blatant what was going on. And I believe that what happened and how it how it unfolded actually fed the riots. Everybody said it was Farage riots, this, that, and the other. I honestly believe that if Keir Starmer would have come on the TV within hours, done his public address like he did the next day, and said, "Look, this is the situation in Southport. We've arrested this guy. He's this age. He is only 17. Here's a recent photo of him. This is his arrest picture. Look, we are looking because we found this. I'm almost certain that the riots, and even if there was civil unrest, that there wouldn't have been nowhere near the scale that what they were if he'd have done it that way. But instead, he comes out and calls us all far right because we're concerned about this keeps happening. It keeps happening.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Sorry to jump in, but I 100% agree with you on that point, because you know, it's like this country. You know, we've been a decent people that have functioned on trust, right? That's how we've always done things. That these people are meant to represent us on trust, you know. And it was come back to the thing I said about the attitude. You know, his attitude was, I can't tell them the truth because that, you know, they'll all go crazy like a bunch of animals. You know, and so I'll tell them a lie, and that'll cover our tracks until we figure out what to do. But of course, because we are a people who value trust and value honesty, we saw through it, and that's where the anger came from. You know, and the more they tried to smear us for the anger, the more the anger was increasing, because of course it would. The injustice of that is like one injustice on top of another, and you've experienced it, Mark. You were first hand in the thick of that, and you know, God bless you for it, because you made a decision on the back of it to stand up. But
you wonder, he's got a team around him. You know, is this him? Which I think it is him. I think he'd just go against whatever anybody said to him, and that is him up there saying that. So whatever his press team say to him, that was him. And if you dissect every single speech he does, he's having a go at the British, the white working class British people. That's who he's having a go at. Even down to the point where he turns around and says, I'm giving, was it £117 million to mosques? And then this week he's taking money off churches. Everything is down, it's pointed at us.
Yeah.
And then he calls everyone
why
racist.
the civil unrest. Yeah, and then he wonders why the civil unrest was doing crazy things like that. It's do you know what it is? Is that he's we're not his citizens, and I shouldn't, I'm sorry that I even started to say that. We as citizens, we feel like we're the second-rate citizens at the moment. We feel that we are being put behind other demographics, and that's where the problem lies with all of this. Just go back to this the media influence, Connie, if I may. Your take on it. It's like the BBC, when Israel and Hamas were having their, and still having it, hopefully that lasts, but that they wouldn't even call Hamas a terrorist organization. That, after everything they said about Hamas, it was and Hamas, who are subscribed terrorist organization by the UK government, they couldn't call, coal for coal or a tree for a tree. What's your take on it? I agree with Reuben in many ways that mainstream media is dying now. It's dying a death. And I read a report today, actually, I think it was, and I don't know how true it is, that Sky News are thinking about going more towards an online platform rather than having a TV station. I don't know if that's true or not. But what's your take on it, Connie? What the media influence on everything?
I used to watch Good Morning Britain. And it's not until you start watching other stuff, when you come on and you're watching Maya Tusi, his show's brilliant. And you think, hang on a minute, they haven't said that. And after you've watched it for about a week or so, where the truth is and where the lies are. And when Nigel Farage has gone on Susanna Reid's slate, he doesn't even open his mouth and they have a go at him. The one interview I watched a few years ago with him, there was 3 of them, and I thought, it's like playground bullies. They were on screen. It must have been during COVID because they'd all got the screens on. And 3 of them just went at him straight away.
It's always the same on Newsnight. When he's on Newsnight,
And Question Time,
Yeah, Question Time.
I was saying the other day to my mum, if you go back 20, 30 years, somebody like Trevor McDonald, you didn't know his political persuasion. He'd been on the television for 40 years. I wouldn't know if he voted Tory, Labour, Lib Dem. But now they're all out and out lefties. Who was it? The one after the election when Labour won, I can't remember who it was. And she gave a sigh of relief and she said, thank God. And she's supposed to be impartial.
Yeah.
There's just no impartiality on the mainstream media. They're all left wing.
It
and
is.
we're the bad guys.
Yeah, we are the bad guys because we do see the trees from the trees, and we're not afraid to say it how it is.
Well, that's
Mark,
the thing.
Sorry, Connie. Can I just say one thing as well on top of that, because you're bringing it out brilliantly. I think that it's not only that they look down on us; it's that they don't have a vision of being that the nation is important anymore. What's happened is that same class of people who are sat, I talked about that you've got the politicians and the media people all sat around the same tables. They're also flying to the same transnational conferences with WHO and WEF and all the rest of these bodies. And they honestly believe that is the future of the world, that actually nation, and this is why people started waking up at Brexit, right? It's because you saw the way the BBC behaved on the back of Brexit. They were immediately so outraged that any of us would still believe in having a nation. Bottom line, they hate it. They don't like the idea of it.
It's the hypocrisy. They're going about global warming and then fly first class around the world 3 times on a private jet. And they think that's okay. And then they'll come back and lecture us all. don't do this. Don't go on holiday.
Yeah.
The cow's flying too
I
much.
want to get another question in because I want to get as many of these questions done as possible.
Yeah, sorry. Mark.
It's great. No, it's great that we're talking about it. It really is. I'm trying to get the more important things out now in case we run out of time. But if I could put this one to you, Connie, please. NHS. How well do you feel the NHS is coping with the current demands, and what reforms are necessary to sort it out?
Well, I've got a long history with the NHS. I'm suing them at the moment.
Is that right?
Yeah, but just a few weeks ago, I pulled it. It was the day before the march. I pulled a muscle in the back of my leg, and I heard it rip. So I went to A&E. I was there 7 hours. So when I got into A&E, the girl at the counter took all my details, put it into the computer. So I went and sat in another room. Another girl did the same. Went and sat in another room. After 5 hours, I got called in. Another girl, what's your name? I said, I've given you, yeah, we have to just go through it. So I went through it 4 times. So that was 4 people doing the job one person could have done. There's too many people doing the wrong jobs in the hospitals. It's just, when you're in there, you're queuing. There's people on trolleys. I mean, a woman at work, her mum was on a trolley for 20 hours. She'd had a stroke. Nobody cares. Absolutely nobody. I mean, I say probably the wrong person to ask because of what happened. My dad died at the hands of the NHS. Okay. So that was 2018, and that's still going on now. It's still a case. It's going through, and it's total neglect, absolute neglect. And nurses. All I can say is I had a couple of good nurses look after my dad. And they do things. I'll tell you what they did quickly, because I know you want to get other questions in. But my dad ended up not being able to eat and drink, so he got a tubing and everything. He was constantly hungry. So I went in the one day, and where did I sit him? Where did I put his bed? Next to a food station where they're serving food to other patients. And I'm thinking, this is cruel. And they couldn't see why I was so cross. And it's things like that. They'll leave people. I had an operation years ago, and there's a woman, she was walking around with no clothes on because she must have had mental health issues. And I said to the nurse, can you do something? Oh, she'll just take it off again. And I thought, well, this woman, she's a human being. She needs a dignity. And I can't see where it's going to go now myself, because I just think it's that overstretched. Everybody who's supposed to be looking after it has lost sight of it. Well, and I think it'll go down the private route. And yes, I've never been one for private. I've always thought I pay my taxes. The NHS is mine, sort of thing. But if I got the money now, I would pay full private healthcare for all my family, because I think if you go at the NHS coming out, it's a bit of a lottery.
Yeah, I think I would go the same way too, to be honest. Ricky, that's what I was about to say, Ricky. To be honest, we all kind of know the way Nigel Farage wants to go with it. He wants to do a system of a payment scheme, and he will privatise it essentially. Good idea? Bad idea?
I think it's a pretty good idea, to be honest. I mean, I can't remember the last time I went to the doctors or hospital anyway. So I'm paying my stamp and for other people to use it. Now, here's the thing for you. Why don't they give you a rebate? Why don't they they've got your NHS records. They know how many times you're frequently going to the hospital or doctors or anything like that. So it's easy to rectify. So why not just give you a rebate on your stamp? That's I personally think anyway. Whether it's a good or bad idea, I don't know. But I just refuse to keep paying for people that, like Connie says, her dad. Look at the care that her dad had. Why are we paying tooth and nail all this money to pay for our stamp, and you get horror stories like Connie's? It's just ridiculous.
I think part of the problem is the NHS wasn't set up to deal with the numbers that we've got.
With the amount of people that we got, yeah.
It all comes back to immigration and our open borders, and I'm going to be a bit
No, population's set to rise. What's it? 72.5 million by the time 2030 comes around. So what's the NHS going to be like there?
Exactly. It wasn't.
It's virtually on its knees now. So
I know.
then it's going to be non-existent. So back to your question, Mark. If you privatise it, I'm all up for that. As long as I don't have to pay for my stamp.
That's fair enough. I was just about to. I stopped talking because I was trying to. I was thinking, right, I'm going to say something bad here, and I don't really want to be put in prison again. But you know, we've got record numbers coming in. The NHS wasn't set up for the amount of numbers that it's got. It hasn't. You can pump as much money as you want into the NHS. It's not going to work unless you actually have a radical overhaul of it, and that is either going private with it, or we need to build X amount of hospitals and build them. I think Boris Johnson signed off on 40 hospitals, and they're not going to be done until 2060, I think. And that's what he signed them off, you know. And the people that are coming into the country, they come with health needs as well, especially the ones that are marrying their cousins and having babies that way. And I know that comes across as a bit harsh, but it's fact. It's matter of fact. And I just don't think that unless we have a massive overhaul of the NHS, that you can pump as much money into you like. That's not going to change. What's your thought, Reuben?
Well,
but
I was afraid you'd come to me because this is, there's so many things you could say about this this particular issue. I mean, in terms of, we have a massive health tourism thing going on, don't we? You know, like there are people coming in and out of the country to get whatever they like for free. I mean, that's serious. And then of course we're sending nurses and doctors to these hotels, and all of that is true. That's a statement of fact. You know, in terms of population, if we were to be growing our population with young, healthy, integrated people who are working and contributing to the tax system, we wouldn't have a problem. But it doesn't look like that's what's going on, right? So there's this massive burden that is just gonna hit ahead. But then the final thing I'll say, and I won't say too much about it because I don't want you necessarily to kind of steer it in that direction. But the NHS was used as a great big weapon against us a few years ago, you know. And I've got a very close family member who is a nurse who does an absolutely terrific job, you know, and really, you know, was once very proud to be a member of the NHS trying to help out. And I get that, I understand that, but equally it was weaponized against us. And you know, and even she would say exactly that the whole thing has changed. And again, it's those transnational bodies. You know, there's stuff going on. They're using bodies like the NHS to try and control us. And, you know, for me, you know, I'm not paying into that if I can avoid it. You know, I wish I wasn't. Like Ricky, what a great idea. You know, give me my money back if I'm having nothing to do with it, because I know so many people who spend the last 5 years learning how to treat themselves with all sorts of different ways because they don't want to get involved with it anymore because they don't trust it. You know.
Yeah.
And I agree.
That's why people going online now and buying their own tablets. And then tablets that you buy online, you can't really police. So you don't know what you're throwing down your neck half the time anyway.
No, you're quite right.
It's true, but you know, in America, they would probably say that the whole idea of a nationalized health system is one of the ways that they've ended up having us so left-minded. You know, that we put up with so much because it does steer a society in that way. So if we could have a system where everybody can have some kind of an insurance thing, then I'm all for it. Go for it. Shake it up. You know.
Yeah.
Well, buckle up for round 2 because bird flu is being talked about now. But you're quite right. Well, let's park that one there. So I want to talk about crime and the police force and 2-tier policing and a police state. So.
Today, Mark, that's meant to be far right, isn't it? 2-tier.
Yeah, that is far right, mate. Yeah, that is far right. We're all far right. Let's face it. But
I'll wear that badge of honour if it means far right speaking out, then so be it. I've just fed up with it.
When the Southport thing happened, and you know there was people, nurses, doctors, firemen, policemen, even policemen online saying, "Well, if because I give a shit about girls being slaughtered, that makes me far right, then I'm far right." And there was a movement saying "Far right thugs unite," and they actually used that against me in court, saying, "What's all this about? What's all this about?" And I had a post once when some of the things they used on post against me were ridiculous. They were trying to paint a picture of me which told a story that led up to the big ones about me getting the guy's name wrong and stuff like that. So me saying there's only two genders. If I had a pound for every gender there was, I'd have £2. I had this little stick man that was putting his hand up, and it basically says, if you're tired of this shit, put your hand up like this. They're trying to make out. They're going, so what's the point of that then? I'm like, it's fucking stick man putting his hand up. And they're going, are you sure it's not some kind of salute? And I'm like, see what you're doing. Yeah. No, it's a little stick man putting his hand up, you know. So what my question is, and I'll put this one to you, Ricky, if you don't mind. Crime. There seems to be a stabbing every day. I mean, London, there's gangs running around the capital, doing what they like. It seems, you know, it seems to be quite lawless in London now. I live in Leicester. There's a lot of crime there. There seems to be gangs and stabbing and knives out of control. And we have a police force that are, let's say, more prepared to come around and knock on folks like my door and lock me away for saying some hurty words than what they are for locking a paedophile up that's took part in some kind of, you know, disgusting deed. Your thoughts on where we are crime-wise and your views on two-tier policing, please, Ricky.
Well, two-tier policing is there for us all to see. It's blatant. It's so blatant, the two-tier policing, and the knife crime. It's not so bad where I live. It's quite a quiet little village, or quite a little town, I should say. But I'm expecting it to come down here at some point, the knife crime. But as far as like London and the major cities goes, they're just disgusting. Every time you turn on your phone, there's a knife crime. I mean, in Connie's area, I think it was, there was a 14-year-old kid the other day that got, I think it was 14-year-old kid, got stabbed. And you're like, really? He's 14? Yeah. I don't know what the answer is.
He was 12 and he was 12 and he was stabbed by a 14-year-old.
Sorry, sorry. I've got it mixed up.
The lad was 12. Mm.
But what the answer is, I have got no idea, to be perfectly honest with you. They just need all sacking. All of them.
Car needs to go for
without a doubt. And what he done at City Hall the other day, I thought that was just absolutely disgusting. When the Reform candidate asked him about knife crime, and he said, "I'd rather not work with anyone that's from Reform." Well, that wasn't the question you was asked, City, was it? He asked you about knife crime. And what are you doing about knife crime?
He's a little weasel, mate. I've seen many a video of people asking him valid questions. At the end of the day, he's the Mayor of London. You're quite entitled to ask him a question and him not giving a straight answer, or running away, or not answering, or just being downright rude. The guy, Sadiq Khan, is a weasel. He's a little cretin. And the only reason he's in power in London, let's be honest, is because he's got the votes. And that's the problem that we've got there. Is getting him out, because he ain't going anywhere, because he's so self-obsessed, little cretin, that he will keep wanting to do what he's doing year in, year out. And the guy was knighted, for goodness sake, for increased life crime, for London going down the pan.
He will never be a sir to me, and I'm never referring to a sir. He will never be referred to sir from my lips. I've got other words I could use for that bloke.
100%. I mean, what could unite a guy that's governing over increased knife crime of this, the capital city going to the dogs? Do you know what I mean? But the problem we're going to have, if we don't sort this out now, is that the longer this goes on, the more and more votes these people are going to have, and we're going to be stuck with a Labour government with Sadiq Khan for years and years to come. And we can't do naff all about it.
One of the things they could bring back is stop and search.
Yeah, but people won't vote, will they? People don't vote. That's the problem. People won't go out and vote.
And I just think Sadiq Khan's just looking after his own people. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, say it, Ricky.
He doesn't care about the whole.
He's got the Muslim vote. He looks after his. They're not his kind. They're his people. They are his people. I wouldn't say kind. That is a bit derogatory. He looks after his demographic.
Yeah.
He couldn't give a shit about an English white man. He couldn't. And anybody that says he does, I'll debate that with him for hours. He's not, and the same with Keir Starmer. He's not got our backs. He's not for the English white man or white woman. All he's interested in is getting his votes.
Look, go back to the riots, Mark, at Southport when the boogeymen EDL was meant to be taken to the streets, and the Muslim community came out in force with knives and everything in his hands. He was all for protecting them. He was all for protecting them. He didn't see any other way other than through these glasses. No,
you're quite right. Have you got anything to add on this, Reuben, before we get the next question?
Well, as a Londoner, I mean, to see what has happened to that city is the most devastating thing. It's just unbelievable what's happened to that place, and just as you guys have said, we know who the culprit is. We know we know why the system is working the way it is. That it's an unholy alliance that's going on there, and hopefully the pressure that's put on with the whole kind of Southport issue and the whole rape gang crisis is going to reveal that unholy alliance more and more and more, because that's a big destabilizing issue in the middle of our cities, and that's the problem, right? Because these kids who are knifing one another, it's a hopeless environment that they're in. And in terms of cleaning up the police force and getting law and order back on track, we do need a massive political sweep out. And I know that one of the things that happened in America is that they everybody like us in our own little places, wherever we are, people mobilized to get out and speak to those people who aren't voting and convince them that if they vote, they're going to see a massive seismic shift that can change things. Yeah. And it's only going to be us that can convince people who don't vote. Let's be honest.
And
I think it'll be us that says, guys, you need. Now, I'm not. For me, it's like it is a cultural movement that needs to start first, because it's about us all coming together and saying, we want our country back. We don't want this knife crime anymore. We don't want this bedlam. We want peace and safety and a sense of hope and future for our kids and grandkids, right? I just feel like there is a massive change that has to happen, but it's going to start at the grassroots when we mobilize each other to just not put up with it anymore, and keep putting the pressure on to expose this unholy alliance. Because I'll just say it outright, both the left and the Islamists, they share the same notion that you can lie through your teeth to get power. And so because they share that idea, they're working together to get power. That's how it's going,
Yeah.
But they've been allowed to do that, haven't they?
They have, yeah. They have been allowed, yeah.
Sorry, Ricky, go on.
I do believe it's called Takir, isn't it? On the Muslim side.
Yeah.
On
the left side, it's called the noble lie on the left side, right? And so it's the same. It's the same idea. They think it's noble to tell a complete untruth in order to get power, and that's what Starmer just did to us on the back of Southport, right?
But there is one thing I'd like to add, though, is that this knife crime business that's happening around, especially in London and major cities, is that drill music. That drill music that they listen to it's horrendous. If you listen to some of the words, it's so violent. It's how they get away, and I think that's a lot of it is down to that. Is that they rap about each other, they piss each other off, and then they go around and stab each other. And it's all to do around that drill music.
Yeah, there's
when I was growing up, you never had any music like that. You had Motown, and that music has changed so much. And it's not changed for the better, it's changed for the worse. That drill
I think also
disgusting. And I'll probably get slated for saying this, but it's disgusting.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Connie.
Oh no, I was just going to say it's a cultural thing as well, isn't it? I mean, it's about broken families, kids not having dads. It's what schools teach them. It's a bigger issue.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. Listen, I've got a couple of questions from a couple of followers. And what I'll do is I'll read the question, and if one of you wants to stick your hand up and answer it for me, rather than we get into a big discussion about it, and then we'll do it that way, because I've got two questions, and then I want to ask a final question from what I'd got as well. So this first question comes from, and just tell me if you would like to answer it, is from Debbie Baker. Now she said, when is this ridiculous invasion going to stop? How is France spending the billions we pay them to stop the boats? Because they're certainly not expending it on what we expect them to be spending it on. Yeah, go on then, Ricky.
Well, I think reform's the answer. I think reform. You've only got to look at what's happening in America with Trump deportating everybody, and now Nigel Farage is slowly coming around to talking like that. And I think that's the only answer: is reform, and getting reform and Nigel Farage in number 10, and start mass deportation of these people.
So do you think France are having our pants down? Because she's quite right when she says we sent them awful lot of money, and we seem to see an awful lot of immigrants, let's be honest.
And I know our hands are tied with the ECHR, but sod the ECHR. Get Nigel Farage in, and hopefully Nigel Farage will stick his two fingers up to the ECHR and say, no, I'm not buying your rubbish anymore. You're having these people back, or we're going to start putting tariffs on you. Exactly what Trump's done. It seems to be working. So if that's working over there in such a big country as what America is, why can't it work on our tiny little island?
So that's down the line. Connie, what do we do short term though?
I think we just have to grow the movement. I was jotting a few notes down tonight, and what I'm going to do personally in my local area and through social media is start a campaign where we write to our MPs, the Labour MPs. We've got a Labour MP here, and just say to her, this was Starmer's manifesto. This is what he's lied on, every single one, and some. And we're not voting for you. And if everybody does that, come the general, the elections in May, if 100,000 people send her an email saying they're not voting for her, then she'll go to Starmer and say, we're in a mess. If everybody did that across the country, then maybe they'd start changing a few things. But I don't think he will, because he's so arrogant.
Yeah,
he's the most arrogant person I've ever seen.
All he's interested in is their votes. That's all he's interested in, and staying in power.
Yeah. I've put on X before. Why don't Starmer read the room? He's not interested in reading the room. He's got his own agenda. He's a communist. And we've got to sing to his tune. Well, I ain't singing to his tune.
And where did he go on his gap year? When he left university?
Yeah.
No, it's all come out. He went to a communist camp, I don't believe, in Russia, wasn't it? If memory serves me, I mean, I might be wrong, but so I believe that's where he went for his gap year. I mean, it says it all, really.
Certainly worth Googling, that is, guys, at home. I've actually Googled that, and there's some material out there, let's be honest, and it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. So I'm going to give this final question to you from the followers, Reuben, if you don't mind. This is from John, and he said, why do British citizens feel like second-class citizens? Did Labour... This comes in a few parts, Reuben, sorry. Did Labour lie about the £22 billion black hole when they gave foreign climate policies 11.6 billion and 3 billion to Ukraine?
What was the first part again? Sorry.
The first part is why do British citizens feel like second-class citizens? We did discuss it a little bit earlier, but that was the first part. The second part was about the 22 billion black hole.
So take the second part first. Just they have to know about the money before they even get in. If they're a shadow cabinet, they know about the money, right? So that's not even a discussion. Everybody knows that the economics are messed up and things need to change. That's a given, and they just seem to want to do what they do, which is spend more and more money in all their interests and nothing to do with what the people want. In terms of the two, the people feeling like second-class citizens, we've mentioned it's the two-tier thing, and it's not just two-tier policing, it's two-tier judiciary, it's two-tier schooling, in terms of the way that our history is taught, for instance. the way our culture is kind of told to shut up, and we have to celebrate, every other culture bar our own.
Mhm.
It's all of that. Everything is been two-tier for a long time, and it's been a kind of such a slow burner. Like I come back to that for many years we kind of bit our lip. Said that at the beginning, biting our lip, trying to be tolerant, and now we see where this has been leading, which is to totally restructure our society in a way that nobody has ever voted for. So that's the reason why. And I will just say that the truth will out, and that I do believe we're a fundamentally good people, and if we can reclaim that sense of goodness and unity between us, then we can win this fight, because there are seismic changes happening around the world that will affect things like borders, that will affect the migrants coming into Europe and then getting to France in the first place. There's whole massive things unfolding that may be to our benefit, please God, over the next few years.
Yeah.
There is one thing I'd like to add to what Reuben said about schools. I don't know if anyone saw it. Did you see that Welsh school video that they put out about Reuben's nodding. Yeah, you know what I'm going to say. That's disgusting. That is disgusting. They had young girls parading around in a playground trying to welcome immigrants into the country. Are you that's just sick. That is sick. What are you doing? What on earth are you doing? You're getting young girls to parade themselves in short skirts with their legs crossed, inviting illegal immigrants to come over here and be welcomed. It's just mind blowing. It's absolutely mind blowing.
It's crazy.
What were they thinking putting that video out? It's just beyond me.
It makes you wonder what their agenda is. I mean, it's like paedophiles not getting put in prison.
That might be part 2 of this discussion, I think, if we get onto that one.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know. It is so horrendous that I don't know what the answer is. What is their thinking? Like, are they just purely so naive that they don't even add up the dots and think that might be slightly strange, or is there an agenda? And again, none of us really know the answer to that. But it's whatever it is, it's the most stupid, horrible thing I think I've seen in a while.
Yeah. Them two girls they showed in that video, what are their parents thinking?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't got a daughter, but there's no way on this earth I'd let my daughter do that.
Yeah.
No way on this earth. What are their parents thinking?
No, I have no idea.
Absolutely crazy.
They've got something to answer for as well. No doubt they probably voted Labour, but I don't know.
Right, listen, guys. I want to ask you one more question each. I'm going to ask you the same question, and I want you all to answer it. To be honest, because I've really enjoyed getting a different opinion to the normal people that you see on these programs. So it's always been a plan of mine to do this kind of thing anyway. So I was quite pleased when Connie suggested it in the chat, to be honest. And I'd love to do this again, because I've got loads of questions written down here, which I'd like to ask you. And you've all spoke really well. And I think it's important that we get as many new voices into platforms like this and other platforms, and having you say, because the more people that then put their head above the parapet and say, yeah, I'm prepared to speak, this is how the movement gathers pace. And this is a movement, and it's going to be slow and it's going to be steady, but this kind of thing is the start to that. So just a little message to anybody that's watching this is, if you've enjoyed it and you want to get involved, and you've been screaming saying, what about this, what about then give me a DM and we'll get you on to the next one, because I've got a shed load of questions here that I'd written down today when I was on it.
I've written loads of stuff down as well.
And I kind of knew that we'd probably get stuck on a few. That's why you'll see I've got like first question, second, and I knew we'd go down that way. So let me ask you all this same question just to finish off with, and then we'll call it a day. And then I'd love to get you all back on. You spoke really well, all of you, and I'd like you to ask you some more questions, and hopefully we could be joined by a few others. But the question is, so looking forward, we're talking about broken Britain and what we think, is broken Britain and what's happening. So looking forward, what does a fixed Britain look like to you? And what steps do we need to get there?
Crikey.
We'll leave Ricky because he needs to think about it.
I think so, yeah.
I will.
I'm trying to put it in a diplomatic way without using my P's and Q's, shall we say.
Go on, Connie, you go first.
Getting back to good old-fashioned patriotism.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was watching a program the other day, a little island just in the US, and beautiful place. It looked like heaven, but everyone had got the flag outside. Now, during COVID, I made my husband put a flagpole up in the garden. I got my Union Jack, and I love to look at it. I listen to patriotic songs. I'm sure Keir Starmer would think I was some Nazi, but I'm a patriot. I'm English. I'm a British citizen, and I'm proud of it. And I think that's where we need to get back from. It doesn't matter what colour you are.
Yeah.
You know, black, white, green, yellow. You know, we all love our country, and we just want a nice place to live under a nice government, which we're not under a nice government.
Totally agree, Connie.
And I think that's Connie's hit it on the nail on the head there. Really, it's the government. We've got to get rid of this government before you think about trying to get our patriotism back in full, the way it should be. I mean, I know we've got patriotism now, but it's not the way it was when I was growing up.
You know, I was listening to some songs the other day, and one of them was Jerusalem. And I thought, oh, we always used to sing that at school in assembly, and I thought, I bet they don't even have assembly now. Let alone sing.
I don't think they do. I don't think they have assembly anymore.
No.
Yeah,
I think schools now are almost like concentration camps.
They are. My lad goes. I specifically sent my lad to a Christian school, and they do actually have assembly, and they do pray, and they do say grace.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You know, it is there, but that has been eradicated from a lot of places. You know, people feel ashamed to wave a flag. You know, when you've got people marching through London with Palestinian flags and singing certain songs, and the police stand there idly by, and then when Tommy Robinson has a march, and they're telling people to move here, move there, and kettling people, you know, it's crazy, and that is part of the problem, is that people are afraid to wave a flag. People are afraid to speak up. People are afraid to have a voice, and people are afraid to say no. And that's the step one, I believe, is for people to go, do you know what? It's about time I did have a voice. It's about time I did say no. It's about time I did, you know, put a guard up and say, I'm going to say it how it is. Because the more people we have doing that, you know, it'll be difficult to start with, but the pushback will be less and less and less. The more people join the movement, and I think that has to be step one. Reuben, I'll give you the final voice, mate.
Oh, thank you. Listen, guys, that was brilliant, because I was listening before I came on here. I was listening to Jerusalem, and There Will Always Be in England, and you know, just stirring stuff up.
My favourite.
Yeah. You were playing it the other day, I think, on the group chat. But patriotism is a virtue. You know, this is what people have forgotten, is that it's a fundamental Christian virtue to care for your nation. Because, you know, again, you know, I know everybody has different stages of, you know, their religious belief or whatever. That's absolutely well and good. But the point is, you know, we always have been a nation that's united, and a fundamental part of that is our Christianity. And you know, I think that what I would say is we need to reclaim our patriotism, and also, you know, if you have a sense that we're losing so much, then, you know, and you still consider yourself a Christian, I would say get to the sources of grace. You know, get to church and start praying.
Definitely,
we need everything that is available to us, and I believe it is available to us from heaven to reclaim our nation. But it's a virtue to hold your flag up, and we've been told for a long, long time that it's not. It's a bad thing. And so I think those two things really, really go together. You know, you read our literature through the centuries, and we talk about the beauty of England and the virtue of patriotism from a godly perspective, because, you know, Christ chose these lands. You know, he did. Yeah. Those two things intimately go together. So let's be proud of who we are, however we can. And you know, it's interesting. We all said the same answer, right? Hold the flag.
And there will always be an England.
There will always be an England.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just one other thing. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but if you go onto YouTube and type in "I'm an Englishman" and have a look at that speech, that pretty much sums it up, to be honest. If you're not, I have posted it on X before, but that pretty much sums it up.
Look at that. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, if you type into YouTube "I'm an Englishman" and it come up. It's quite an old speech and video, and I think it was an actor that originally done Mark Almond, I think his name was, or something like that. But yeah, go and listen to that. It pretty much sums it up for me.
Because I mean, it's like when you go to the rallies, you can't get that feeling from anywhere else.
No,
That sense of pride, everybody, all them flags. It's just like, I can't even explain how I felt when I was there.
Yeah, well, because we didn't realize, we don't realize how much we've been told you can't do it, you know, until you're actually together again. You go, you know, there's, I mean, it's ludicrous. You wouldn't go anywhere else in the world where people aren't able to celebrate who they are, you know.
Definitely,
it's a crying shame that we don't do these rallies more often, and I think that's something that we do need to do, and we need to do them up and down the country as well, and we need to do them in numbers, you know. We need to be, the norm at the minute is for the other side to be spouting their rubbish and to spouting, you know, their thing, which is the wrong thing, and it's very unchristian. We need to be doing Christian things in our cities, in our towns, uniting. And I'm really pleased that Reuben said what he said about faith. You all know I'm a Christian and practicing Christian at that. And faith means a lot to me. And
Mark,
go on.
I wanted to sort of go back to Christianity and join the church and everything. So I went up to my local church, and lo and behold, it's got a rainbow flag standing outside.
Yeah,
so
that's not the church for you, then,
I just turned around and walked the other way, and I was like, well,
keep looking, brother.
That's the only church in my village. It's 900 years old. It's quite an old church, and I'm like, really?
Ricky, the church I go to, we travel 45 minutes to get there and 45 minutes back. But once you've found the right church where you feel at home and you know you have a big connection there, you will keep going back and keep going back. But yeah, if there's one of those crappy flags outside, mate,
I just turned around and went back the other way.
Well, and this is my big thing, Ricky, is that, you know, we have to also be very, very strong in you know, whenever anybody comes at us with all the different ways they've tried to divide us, whether it's the rainbow flag or the you know, whatever else it is, that you just say no. You just say no, thanks very much. I'm a Christian. No, thank you, because none of that is Christian. And the hierarchy can say that it is all they like. It's not. It's totally anti-Christian. So yeah, just keep moving, find a better place, as Mark says.
I was intrigued. I was going to go in there and just to see what kind of reaction I got if I started to talk to the vicar or something, just to see whether he was impartial or biased. Do you know what I mean? But
if they're proud of hanging a rainbow flag outside the building, mate, I'm telling you now, and I don't even have to see the flag, it's not the church for you. Especially somebody that's trying to find God again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Keep moving, bro. Yeah, you'll be all right. You'll find somewhere.
Right, listen, guys, we've run out of time. I want to thank you, all three of you, for joining me. I've really enjoyed it, actually. I think it really well. I think we've covered some good stuff, and I think people that are going to watch this are going to enjoy it. And what I would say to anybody that's watching it is, like I said previously, get involved next time. DM me, and we'll set these up regularly. I'd love to have all three of you back on the game.
I'll come back on, definitely, Mark.
Yeah, and definitely, I will as well. Yeah, definitely.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Just one other thing, though, Mark. Just a quickie. The other rally I think that people should go to is St George's Day.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a rally up in London on St George's Day, and I think we're the only people over here that don't celebrate things like that. I mean, you got the Irish Day and everything else, but we're the only ones that don't celebrate our own identity.
And it's that's what we. Yeah, that's what we're saying. It's a shame. It's a shame that we don't. It's a shame that we're not more Christian. It's a shame that we don't celebrate St George. It's a shame that we don't wave our flags. It's you know, all of it's a shame at the minute, and we need to get rid of that shame. We need to get rid of that, and we need to stand tall, and we need to have a voice. So I'm pleased I've got your three voices today. I will get your three voices again. I really do appreciate it. But I'll see you on Saturday.
See you on Saturday.
See you on Saturday.
See you later.